Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. I'm your host, Wiam Nemo, and we are celebrating Hindu Heritage Month with two special guests, both part of the Bharatiya Temple of Metro-Detroit located in Troy, Michigan. So we have Nasy, Sankagiri, and we have Divya Jain.
Nice.
Oh, welcome. So I'm going to give a little introduction about them, and then we will ask them wonderful questions about their heritage. So Nasy was born and raised in a traditional and scholarly Hindu family in South India and immigrated to the United States in pursuit of doctoral study in mechanical engineering. Nasy volunteers at the Bharatiya Temple of Metro-Detroit in Troy as chair of the Outreach Committee and editor of Temple Quarterly magazine. Divya has a master's in biotechnology, is working as a quality and compliance manager in compounding pharmacy while raising her two young girls. She works for Hindu rights as an activist, teacher of Hinduism basics, and an interfaith speaker. Hobbies include Bharati Indian classical music and dance, writing, and cooking. So I've always had such an interest in the Indian culture, and although I've gone to so many countries, I haven't made it to India yet. But I know I will. I have a friend who she's French actually, at part Belgium, and her husband is from India, and they built a house there. So she's always inviting me. One of these days I'll get there, but in the meantime, I will try to learn as much from you guys as possible. So let's start off with the first questions that we have here. So, by the way, happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you too and all your viewers, VM. This is such a pleasure and honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, please help us understand more about Diwali and the Festival of the Lights.
Okay, I'll take this answer. Thank you everyone, and thank you VM for this wonderful opportunity. I love to speak about Hinduism and culture in general. The Indian culture. So Diwali is the festival of lights. Definitely means that removing the ignorance from your lives. So not just lighting the diyas or just lighting the light, but literally removing the ignorance that might be shrouding your minds or your uh, consciousness. Now, Diwali is celebrated. It's a 5-day festival, mostly 5-day across India, but a lot of other countries, because Hindus are settled in other countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, United States, UK, African countries, even South American countries. Everybody celebrates it. More or less, it is 5 days. The basics that includes is lighting the diya lamps, uh, worshipping the goddess Lakshmi on the main day of Diwali, cooking a lot of sweets at home, buying new clothes, and a lot of abundance and joy in terms of whatever we do, in terms of whatever we buy, like the clothes or the food that we cook at home, or the colors of rangoli that are being spread during those 5 days. Everybody shows or is an epitome of joy, happiness, and abundance. And we are seeking prosperity as well as contentment in our lives. So it is a festival of growing spiritually for sure, which means that you're trying to remove ignorances from your life, or any kind of papa that we seek, that we do in our life. We think and we pray to the goddess Lakshmi that she will come and take it over from our lives. And firecrackers are being burnt across Bharat, across India, and even in United States we did it this time. So that is about Diwali in general. Thank you.
And then, Nasy, if you can tell us, that was so beautiful, by the way. And I think I saw the Prime Minister, he was kind of celebrating it as well. I was watching some things on social media about how he was celebrating it. So, Nasy, would you tell us about the Hindu culture? It's so diverse and complex, so if you can briefly explain it to a non-Hindu audience, please.
Yes, I will try to be as brief as possible. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. Hinduism, or what we call Hinduism these days, because even the name Hindu was given to us by people who are not native to the land, but came from outside. They came from the west, and they came to the river Indus, and in their languages they refer to that river as Hindu, and the people beyond the lands, beyond that river in the lands of what is now Bharat, they refer to those people as Hindu. So that's how the word Hinduism came into being. And Hindus themselves refer to their religion as Sanatana Dharma, or eternal way of life, eternal religion. Basically, Hinduism is different from, for example, the Abrahamic religions in the sense that we don't have a single prophet. It did not start with a single prophet, and it is not based on any one book. Briefly, Hinduism is a religion that is based on teachers and teaching, and it is based on pilgrimage to sacred places. It is based on personal worship and personal growth. These three are the cornerstones of Hindu thought, Hindu philosophy, and Hindu practice. If we have to refer to the scriptures or the holy books, the fundamentals come from the four books known as the Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. There are four Vedas. And then the teachers from ancient times, we call them rishis. Rishi literally means a seer, or the one who saw. So they figured out that the common people are finding it very difficult to understand the Veda and to incorporate the teachings of the Veda into their daily lives. So they created and taught and created a vast body of knowledge. They are called by many names. There are the Puranas, there are the Itihasas, there are the Shadangas. There are sub-scriptures called the Vedanta, which is the philosophical part of it. There are books called Kalpa, which is recommendations for best practice on how to lead one's life, so on and so forth. And what I want the audience to understand about Hinduism is, because of this vast body of knowledge that's given out by the teachers, Hinduism is inherently very pluralistic. There is no single way a Hindu is recommended or commanded to behave or believe to be a good Hindu. In fact, there are branches of Hinduism which are atheistic in nature. Another thing a typical Westerner or non-Hindu finds perplexing is the plethora of gods we have in the Hindu religious practice. For example, if you visit our Bharatiya Temple, on the main dais, you will find 7 shrines enshrining 7 different deities ready for worship. The reason for this is the Vedic teaching, Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahudha Vadanti. The truth is one, but the wise call it by different names. The rishis, the original teachers, realized that the human nature is such that if you tell them to do one thing and one thing only, the human psyche will never accept it. So they created multiple paths, all to realize the same ultimate realization. And that ultimate realization is captured in another Vedic teaching, which says, Aham Brahmasmi. I am it. I am that God. The God is within me. So even though we have physical representation of what we call God in multiple forms, and we worship those forms. By the way, Hindus do not like to use the word idol because it has acquired a lot of negative colonial baggage. In English, we refer to these as deities, our objects of worship, or we prefer to use the original Sanskrit word murti, because the word murti is not merely a statue, but it has a certain sacredness that is already encapsulating that concept. It is an object that is worthy of worship. So even though we are worshiping a physical object, every Hindu inherently realizes that they are invoking that devotional energy within themselves. And what the devotee or the practitioner is able to awaken within themselves, that is the true fruit. That is what we call knowledge, or that is what we refer to as dispelling of ignorance that Divya referred in defining Diwali. So this is the basic idea. We want all human beings, it's not just the Hindus, we want all human beings to be able to realize this. And that is the beauty of it. And there are many paths to pursue towards the same goal.
So, given how you just described all of this, that is why I mentioned to you that I had once visited the temple, and it was a beautiful experience. And I didn't even know any of this that you're saying. But I think that was the energy that I felt. There was such acceptance. I mean, nobody batted an eye, that I came in and I was with my children, and it was a very, very beautiful, very spiritual experience.
And I would like to add just one more idea, one more sentence.
Mm-hmm.
There is a concept that goes with 3 words: Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Satyam is truth, Shivam is auspiciousness, Sundaram is aesthetics or beautiful. So the idea of beauty, the idea of being aesthetically pleasing is inherently embedded in the basic philosophy, basic thought process of Hindu religion and in Hindu worship. And this is also the source of a lot of our classical arts, be it temple architecture, all the beautiful sculptures you see, whether in the US temples or in the temples in Bharat, or in our classical arts such as painting, music, dance, etc. They all kind of come from the same source of pursuing an aesthetic beauty in terms of unifying with that God to realize that inner realization that we spoke about.
Yeah, and the fact that I think if anybody was to go and visit, they would experience that. Like from my end, as a Christian visiting, what drew me is I was very curious. Plus, you had somebody visiting from India that was doing a meditation for, I think, like a week. And I had heard a lot about him. I cannot remember the name, but I know that feeling, everything that you're describing, it felt like regardless, you walk in and you don't have to have any of those labels with you. You just walk in and there's that purity, there's that innocence that we all really need to kind of reconnect with. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Absolutely.
And so your community in Michigan, in comparison to other communities in the United States, or how established you are, like I always tell people actually that Michigan has the largest population of Chaldeans in the world.
Right.
And then California has the second largest population. With regards to the Hindu population, what does that look like in the United States in comparison to Michigan?
I don't think we have any reliable statistics of Hindu population. As Divya mentioned, we have Hindus not only immigrating from the land of modern day India, but also from many other surrounding South Asian countries, as well as other countries in the world, such as Mauritius, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Sri Lanka, or various African nations where Indians and Hindus have settled in the last 100 years. We have Hindus coming from Caribbean countries such as Trinidad and Tobago, so on and so forth. So we don't have really reliable statistics on the U.S. population of Hindus. I would tentatively put it somewhere around 2 million or so. And in Michigan state, I think we are somewhere around 80,000. And obviously, they are mainly concentrated in the urban centers like Metro-Detroit area, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Kalamazoo, Saginaw, and maybe some even in Traverse City. And quite a few Hindus are living in rural and semi-rural areas, primarily as healthcare providers, as doctors, nurses, and hospital administrators.
Yes. And do you, I'm assuming both of you travel to India often since you are able to? Or
I go pretty much every year.
and you, Nasy?
For me, professional and family needs kind of take precedence. So my frequency has been about once in 2 years. I still have my siblings there, lots of nephews and nieces there. Pandemic kind of put a pause in that. It's been 4 years since I went last. And I bought my tickets for a trip in December. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So we're always very jealous of people that regularly visit their homelands, which is, it's a very, it's a very beautiful opportunity. So Nasy, if you tell us about the work at the Temple Quarterly magazine that, you're involved with that, what do you publish or feature? And is that associated with the Temple, I'm assuming?
Oh, yes. It's the magazine itself is published by the temple. The magazine is titled Chaitana. It's a Sanskrit word which means inner activity or inner realization. And the magazine mainly does two things. One, inform the membership and the public about the recent activities that the temple had taken, and also announce near future activities that are being planned in the temple. The second thing it does is to publish short, informative articles about Hinduism itself, mainly for the purpose of educating our young people and also to share with the general community. So these are the two main purposes. We try to bring it out. Everything is voluntary effort here. So in general, we try to bring it out once every quarter.
And then what about the history of the temple? And, what are the programs and future goals for the temple?
See, the Bharatiya Temple is the oldest and the largest in state of Michigan. When I first came to Michigan in 1997, Bharatiya Temple was the only temple around, and I used to live in Ann Arbor, and I used to drive up on special occasions to participate in worship. And in about 20 years ago, I settled down in Oakland County, and I'm able to attend the temple much more frequently and also volunteer there. The history of the temple, I'm not very clear on the specific dates. Somewhere around 1987 was the ground purchased and ground broken for the original temple. And interestingly, that original construction doesn't look anything like a typical Hindu temple in terms of architecture. It is very strong wood themes. And interestingly, once the temple was complete and consecrated and open to the public, it won an architectural award by an architecture society. It was featured in the architecture magazine. Anyway, that temple came into being basically in late 80s. And from day one, the temple was imagined as a sort of a democratic organization, meaning that they were not trying to define one way of Hinduism, but make space for the multiple varieties of practices, north, south, east, west, and even people who are not Indian in ethnic origin, but who people who have embraced Hinduism through other means, that they can come and worship there. Second thing they visualized from day one is that it is also an educational and cultural center. So the temple regularly either conducts classes itself or makes space for teachers to come and conduct classes on their premises. These classes include education on Hindu principles for young people as well as adults. It includes instruction in various Indian languages such as Sanskrit, Hindi, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, etc. It includes instruction in Indian classical forms such as Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Odissi, or music, various forms of music. And recently, in fact, they opened up a little sports activity, ping pong, table tennis. It's very popular in India. And a professional comes and offers instruction in table tennis. And also temple conducts many purely cultural, purely social cultural events that brings the community together. These include dinners, social dances, so on and so forth, various events that brings the community together. And apart from a few paid staff that are the priests, the office staff, and the janitorial staff, all the temple management and all the services are provided by volunteers like myself. So it's pretty much a volunteer-driven organization.
And have you guys since then opened other locations as well?
No, we don't have branches. What happened is that by late 90s, people have realized, or actually early 2000s, people have realized that the community has grown so much in number that more space is needed. So they made plans for the expansion. In fact, they built an entirely new structure, that is the marble structure that you saw and visited. They consecrated that in 2012. So the new temple is about 10 years old. In the main prayer hall, we can now accommodate about 600 people at a time. It's pretty large. And under the main prayer hall, we have a full-sized banquet room that is available either for family rentals, functions, like people come and conduct their weddings and their wedding receptions, so on and so forth. So in a way, it truly is a community center.
Yes. Well, and then on a personal note, let's learn a little bit more about you guys. Divya, you're involved in Hindu rights. Can you discuss that as what exactly, what is your work involved with that?
Okay, sure, Vyam. So basically, Hinduism, since you had this question that it is complex, right? You added that word. So in all that complexity, what is happening is that people are misunderstanding it, and a lot of misinformation is spreading around. To fight that, or to rather address that in a right manner, I think is very important. And that is where my role comes in. So as an activist, whenever there is a misinformation spreading across, or there are trials by other people who try to defeat the purpose of Hinduism, which is pluralism and inclusivity. When people try to do that, that's where I come in and try to inform in terms of what Hinduism is. It is the most secular faith. It is most inclusive and plural in its own nature. Its very basic nature is very plural. So writing, speaking, informing, all these are kind of the activism and activist activities that I personally am doing. And there are a couple others like me who are trying to get the similar tasks done. So I think that more like information and in a right information is what we are trying to spread across.
And when you do that, yes, go ahead.
Didn't mean to cut you off, but if I can add 2 sentences to what Divya said. Both of us also volunteer with another nonprofit known as the Hindu Community Relations Council. So basically what this group does, again, we want to try and be a unifying voice for the Hindu community here and help the Hindu community to communicate with and have a dialogue with the larger community. The Bharatiya Temple already has and does a tremendous job of educating others. For example, I conduct school group tours at the temple. My outreach committee members help with that. In fact, early December, I'm going to host about 150 middle schoolers from the area schools for a full school day from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. They'll come, spend the time in the temple, learn something about Hinduism, do some fun crafts and activities, so on and so forth. That's one thing. But at the same time, we also realize that Hindus as a community need to come together to stand up for themselves, to communicate with the media, to communicate with the electeds. And we are not interested in propagating our religion because Hinduism does not have the concept of preaching or proselytizing. However, the families are definitely interested in supporting their own young people when they go to high school, when they go to college, so that they can nurture their religion, their culture, retain that, and pass it on to the next generations. So these are some of the aspects in which we are interested in, and we are working pretty regularly with all our team members, whether it be at the temple or whether it be at the HCRC. We regularly dialogue and meet with other representatives of other religious groups and make up interesting programs where we can get together, talk about things, exchange ideas, and build these programs.
So on that note, we recently did HCRC help the Auburn Hills city in organizing their Diwali, and this event turned out to be beautiful Diwali night. And about 600 people attended. We had tons of activities and dance and other art forms.
I'm sorry, where did you do that?
Auburn Hills city.
Okay, so you took your culture to Auburn Hills, or is it?
Actually, I should say the city of Auburn Hills was already doing this celebration for the last couple of years.
Oh.
And when we heard about it, we offered our services in helping to plan and execute the event. And they were very receptive and very cooperative. So under the leadership of the Parks and Recreation Department of the city of Auburn Hills, our team worked with them, and the celebration really blossomed. I mean, I have seen last year's and this year's both functions. The audience went from about 200 or so to, like Divya said, more than 600 this year. So it was a really beautiful celebration.
So I'm going to keep an eye on you guys' events, because I forgot to mention that one of the things that I did have enjoyed with my daughter when I came, because I believe I came twice, and I don't know if I have them both. I believe I came twice, and one was just like observing, and another one there was like a dance, and there was a lot of activity and food afterwards. It was so much fun. So I'm going to keep an eye, because I think like for people to really understand another culture, I always say it's like you either have them over your house, you go to their house, or you attend something of a lively, we at the museum, when I give people a tour and we have these videos of some of our weddings and our cultures, and I say, you want to really feel the culture and the heart of the Chaldeans, go to their weddings, and you'll really see you'll see the dance, you'll see the music, you'll see the everything kind of combined, the family dynamics and everything like that. So I think what you are doing is really a great way.
Very similar, yes.
But I also do appreciate the spiritual aspects of it that I think is very, very, very important. I mean, it's great when we're having all that fun, but all that inner acceptance, we really need it nowadays. It's very important for everybody.
And that is the real challenge, VM, because if you take the example of Diwali, there's already a narrative, there's already a commercialization that is going on in the mainstream media and on social media, and they just parrot these phrases like festival of lights, but people have to realize that it has a very strong spiritual and religious significance. It's not just merely lighting of a wick lamp. It's not just a festival of lights. That is just the English translation of the concept. Definitely all these activities, all these concepts are very strongly rooted in the Hindu philosophical teachings and in the Hindu spirituality. For example, yoga. For example, yoga. I mean, Hinduism gave yoga to the world. But now we have, nonsensical things like beer yoga, dog yoga, or whatnot. I mean, it's not for me to criticize anybody on what they want to do, but you want to realize yoga literally means seeking a union with the higher power. And that's what you are aiming towards,
So Nasy, since you brought that up, I know we're supposed to end at 30 minutes, but we need to talk about this because there's a lot of misconceptions about yoga. I think even more than people can look at Hindu religion and say, oh, okay, that's a religion, they want to understand it. But the yoga, that's even on another level of universality. I mean, I know on a physical level, and I've been involved in it for a very long time, but once I discovered it, I also learned that there were a lot of things that we were taught in Iraq that I didn't know was yoga. They were just in schools, they would teach us that, so our bodies became flexible to it. But there's so much healing elements involved in it, and there's so many misconceptions. I wrote an article about that one time for the Chaldean News about the misconceptions, because Manresa has yoga classes, and they're trying to educate the public about the importance of it, of how it doesn't contradict your religion. But that's a perfect example what you just said, and I think also out of respect for, not just out of respect, I think it's more valuable for us to understand the history of something and how to use it, because it's more beneficial for us. When I go and get involved by entering the temple, I am getting a deeper sense of what this means, rather than just looking from a distance, hearing these words, all these, like everything looks fun on the outside, and it is, that's good, that's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
But I think to understand something on a deeper level is beneficial for all of us. It's beneficial for all of humanities, and it will help dispel this, because it has, I talk about this very famous movie, Midnight Express, where this man was in prison, in a Turkish prison for a long time, and what saved him is yoga. What kept him concentrated on his goal, and he was able to escape, is yoga. And so when we have the opportunity to share that, so that there is these misconceptions that we can dispel, and you just brought this up, and even though I practice it, I had disconnected the two. So thank you for reminding me.
And I appreciate your comments on it. Again, we are
conscious because we as Christians, like as there is some people that is that misconception, but for me it was so healing, especially when I was raising my two kids, and I know that it could get so stressful, and I would go in, and given how my body and my mind and spirit are working together in union together, I would walk out with just really a different person from the studio. So
if time permits, I'll offer you two more very brief ideas. One, building on what you said about the mind, body, and spirit unification, talk to any very, very professional athlete, like, Wimbledon tennis players, or NBA stars, or Olympic athletes, right? Obviously, they are epitome of physical prowess in doing one thing and doing it extremely well. They do it so extremely well that such level of perfection in that is not possible for pretty much anybody else, any other human being on earth. They do it to that level, right? And if you talk to them, almost everyone talks about something like being in the zone, right? Right? All their elements of their existence are so unified, and that's what achieves their extreme performance. And in a way, in a physical sense, that's yoga, right? You are connecting with a higher force. The second thing I want to offer, there was this ancient teacher, his name was Patanjali, and he wrote the Yoga Sutras, meaning the formulations of yoga. And by the way, he did not create yoga. He only codified the practice that was already there. And his first formulation is, he defines what is yoga. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is stillness of the mind. The mind has to be still. That is the goal. Everything else are the steps to build towards that. So I'll stop here.
No, that was beautiful. Yeah, I'm really glad that we got into the subject. But again, I think when we're exploring a different culture, a different religion, then we come to find out all these things associated with it, that sometimes we are here, we're lucky that we're in the United States, where we're like a melting pot of all these different cultures and backgrounds. But I think, like, to really understand it, we could, like I said before, benefit more from it. So I want to thank you so much both for being here today. It was a lovely experience, especially, as I said, like, my connection and my love for all my Indian friends, and me wanting to visit there one day, for the temple's beauty and my love for yoga. So thank you so much, and happy Diwali, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, VM. Divya and I thoroughly enjoyed this experience. It's a pleasure and honor to participate in this conversation. I invite you and all of your viewers to visit the Bharatiya Temple. We are right in your neighborhood. And if opportunity arises, definitely visit India as well.
Oh yes, that for sure. But the temple too will come. Me and the staff will definitely come and take a tour there. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.